is conditional sentences. So before we have discussed the topic adjective and adverbs in English grammar. Then we discussed articles, definite, indefinite, and now we're moving to the conditional sentences like if clothes and main clothes. So let's begin with the first topic, conditional sentences. If clothes, type 1, 2, 3 summary. For learners of English as a second language, watch out. First, which type of conditional sentence is it? Second, where is the if clause? Example, at the beginning or at the end of the conditional sentence. There are three types of conditional sentences. Type 1. Condition possible to fulfill. Second, condition in theory possible to fulfill. Third, condition not possible to fulfill, too late. Form. First type. If clause, simple present, main clause, well future or modal plus infinitive. Second type. If clause, simple past, main clause, would plus infinitive. Third type. If clause, past perfect, main clause, would plus have plus past participle. Second. Examples, if clause at the beginning. The structure is first goes type, then goes if clause, and then main clause. If I study, I will pass the exam. It's the first type. The second one, if I studied, I would pass the exam. The third type, if I had studied, I would have passed the exam. Third, examples. If clause at the end. So first goes main clause and then goes if clause. I will pass the exam if I study. I would pass the exam if I studied. I would have passed the exam if I had studied. Now let's check the examples, affirmative and negative sentences. Examples, long forms. If I study, I will pass the exam. Negative. If I study, I will not fail the exam. If I do not study, I will fail the exam. Short contracted forms. If I study, I'll pass the exam. If I study, I won't fail the exam. If I don't study, I'll fail the exam. Second type. If I studied, I would pass the exam. Or if I studied, I'd pass the exam. Negative. If I studied, I would not fail the exam. If I did not study, I would fail the exam. And short form, if I studied, I wouldn't fail the exam. If I didn't study, I'd fail the exam. And the third type, affirmative. If I had studied, I would have passed the exam. Negative. If I had studied, I would not have failed the exam. If I had not studied, I would have failed the exam. Short contracted forms. If I'd studied, I would not have failed the exam. If I hadn't studied, I would have failed the exam. We can substitute could or might for would. Should, may, or must are sometimes possible too. I would pass the exam. I could pass the exam. I might pass the exam. I may pass the exam. I should pass the exam. I must pass the exam. Thanks. That was conditional sentences if closed type 1, 2 and 3. English grammar.